Now we're moving into innovation. So we spent some time, and people often ask, how long does it take? And the answer is it takes as long as it takes. We don't have infinite time, and you have to be pretty focused and pretty sharpish. But nonetheless, if I say it takes a week, then everyone will do a week. Well, the truth is, if it's a set of instructions, the first phase might only take 2 or 3 days. If it's something more challenging in year 6, looking at a discursive essay, that might then take 4, 5, 6 days. I don't know. I don't know the children. I don't know the level of the challenge of the text. Only you can decide these things. Generally speaking, at Key Stage 2, it's about a week per phase. Non-fiction tends to be a little bit faster, unless you doom yourself by giving them a very, very long text. And we've already said that that is not a good idea. Keep it sharp, keep it well focused, keep that pace going. Interestingly, the children get faster and faster at learning the texts. They have a phenomenal capacity for auditory memory, and the teachers get more, as a teacher, you'll get more proficient at it. In the end, the oral learning becomes a small part of the work that we do. Important, but a small part of the work that we do. Some children can begin innovating right from the very beginning. My wife worked at one phase in a school where there were only two children on free school meals. And in that particular school, a lot of the children had many advantages. They were read to at home, they owned books, they had lots of experiences, so their world knowledge was big. Still did the oral learning of the text, but it was fast. In other words, the text was shared with the children and they would map it. I mean, in groups, they used to orally retell, and they would orally retell in their own words. They were innovating actually right from the very beginning because they were confident. Bear in mind, if you have modest standards, if the children are struggling with writing standard English sentence patterns, then that tells us they need to learn it word for word. But in the situation I'm describing, they would map out, say, a paragraph, and then very rapidly they'd be innovating on that paragraph. Let's imagine that, let me take a year 2 example. Let's imagine that if it started off, once upon a time there was a little girl and a little boy who lived in a village. Early one morning they woke up and went outside. There, to their amazement, they saw a fox. Let's imagine that was the model text. Actually, it's sounding a bit more like reception or year 1. But I'll innovate on it orally, but because I'm a really confident and creative thinker, I've read an enormous amount, I've got a real reservoir of ideas and thoughts and language to draw upon. So I might well say, in a distant land, many, many years ago, there lived not 1 but 2 children, a brother and a sister, called Peter and Polly. Now, early one morning, they both woke up. The sun was shining, and the 2 children looked at each other and said, "Come on, let's go outside and play." What they did not know was that there was a fox right outside, hiding behind the house. So what I've done is I've taken my basic, but I'm actually now innovating at a much higher level. So some children can almost do that straight away. Innovation, of course, is a form of play. And what will happen with very small children, if we set up play situations so they can go off and play at their story that we're learning, so you've given them the toys or the puppets or the costumes or story maps so they can go and play as part of the provision at the story, you'll often hear them not just retelling the story, but you'll hear them changing it and altering it. And you can add to that, you can say, this morning, instead of goats, I provided you with 3 zebras. What's going to happen in your story this morning? So we can change things and alter things just by altering the toys sometimes in order to encourage innovation. So we tend to go speak it first into before we do the writing. So with little ones, we would change the story map or the text map. We would alter it, very often with post-its. And then the children will be led through the process of making changes themselves. We've learnt with small children, limit the number of changes. If you're in reception or year 1 and you leave them to it, what's going to happen is some children will try and change everything, and they'll insert 12 dinosaurs, and all sorts of exciting things will happen, but because they've changed so much, the structures fall away. So we've learned actually initially to limit the changes and gradually develop that over time. So we would draw a new class story map, change that, and retell the class version. And then the children would steadily go through changing their maps, drawing new maps. Sometimes people use boxes to make it crystal clear. Older ones, of course, they've got their boxing up. So they'll be jotting down, bullet pointing up their ideas. We need to show them how to do that. So it's either draw or plan using a boxed up planner your new ideas. We need to teach that. Don't make it too laborious. They want to get on with the writing of the story. And then we have a go at retelling it. Even those who are really proficient, having a go at oral rehearsal, retelling it, hugely powerful, right from reception, nursery, all the way through into year 6. If you want to and you need to, then hear some of those. So you could spend a couple of days hearing openings, getting people to feedback, what do we like about that, how might that be developed, etc. So all sorts of possibilities. But the basic idea is draw and retell or plan and retell before we move into the writing. And then in terms of shared writing, we're going to work from the class plan, and we do the shared writing bit by bit by bit over a number of days. If it was a set of instructions, it might take us 1 or 2 days. If it's a meaty story, that might take 4 or 5 days. We're going to do it bit by bit by bit. What we're not going to do is let them loose, having only modelled the opening, because they need to see the build-up. They need to see us engage. We need to teach, the suspense bit, the tricky bit. We need to teach the ending. So we do it bit by bit by bit. So everything has been taught, everything has been modelled. I'm not looking for yards of writing. What I'm looking for is quality each day. I'm looking for the payoff from the imitation stage. So they're using those targets, they're using those sentence patterns, they're using those writing tools that we've taught. So it will be shared writing of the opening, they're going to write their opening. And then we take that away, we have a look at that. The next day, we start with a little bit of feedback, a little bit of editing, tweaking and polishing. Not rewriting it, but tweak and polish. And then shared writing of the next part, then they're into the next part themselves. And when you go into talk for writing schools, you see the washing line, you'll always see the boxing up, you'll see with the little ones the story map, you'll see the shared writing there as a support, as a scaffold. What tends to happen is the weaker writers will refer to the washing line. That's what it's there for. The more confident, the stronger writers tend to get their heads down, but hold them bit by bit by bit, because this is the teaching phase. And during this, we've said whole class shared, and then they go off and have a go at this. And that's where the independent work happens for most of the children. But the teacher would sit with a guided group. So let's say I've got a really strong year 4 group. I might start with them, get everybody else going, and then sit with them for 5 to 10 minutes and do a bit of an input and a challenge to them. And then, like a mad thing, I'll be running around the room, marking over the shoulder, intervening. Oh, I like that bit there. That's really nice, that bit there. Have a think about that little bit there. Double check back on the toolkit, because I think there's something on there that you might find useful. So a lot of the marking, if you like, the feedback is actually happening either with a guided group or during the lesson. So sit with the guided group, get them going, run around the room, back to the guided room, run around the room. And if we notice something that is fairly common in terms of a weakness, stop everybody, do a little bit of teaching, and then gear them up and get them going again. So it's bit by bit by bit with the feedback threaded during the process rather than after the process when it's all too late and the horse has bolted. That's the innovation stage. On a separate video, I'm going to talk about different types of innovation.